Hey everybody, what the fuck is going on? This podcast and every podcast is brought to you by Claypot. Claypot is a Cantonese-styled restaurant located at 58 St. Mark's Place in New York City. It is some amazing food. You should totally go check it out. Don't believe me? Well, go look it up on Instagram. Give at ClaypotNYC a follow. You can check out all the nice, tasty, delicious. You have to physically go in, but visually you can enjoy that aesthetic. My guest today is my very good friend Ben, and we actually met through university's Jiu-Jitsu club. Oddly enough, we didn't hang out until after I graduated, and it's weird, but we found that we struck the same kind of interest in Jungian dream analysis and the psychoanalytical analysis of stories and religion, which is weird interest to hit a commonality on, but we both actually gravitated towards the Canadian clinical psychologist and professor Jordan B. Peterson. Whether you like him or hate him, that's just how Ben and I connected. And so in this podcast, we talk about similar lines of thought that Peterson, that Jung, that Eric Newman had laid out. We like to share weird psychological books with each other, and it's just a weird kind of thing that I've never thought I would be doing after I graduated. It's the continuation of education. But this podcast, we kind of cover, I guess, Jungian archetypes and dream analysis a bit. But this conversation ends up being very, very abstract, and that's not a bad thing. It's something that definitely I could take something away from, and I hope you do too.
It's a really colorful show on Cartoon Network, and I think it's pretty distinct from what I grew up with.
As like a classic cartoon kind of.
Yeah, because, I love cartoons growing up, and most of the ones that you see are really just goofy, and they don't really lead anywhere, and you can tell, Adventure Time sort of draws elements from that, and if you want to stay on that level where you're only getting that, haha, you said a stupid thing, or
you made a fart joke or something.
Yeah, you made a fart joke. Dude, there's this one episode we just watched, and the caliber of the fart joke in that episode was phenomenal. That's one of the funniest fart jokes I've ever seen in my life. So bravo to whoever the hell it is that made Adventure Time. You made a killer fart joke. But also, there's definitely a deeper level and some more interesting things going on. They're clearly following some literary patterns, which is interesting, and there's character development, which is huge. So I think it's really cool that you can get the best of both worlds, because it's both for the kid who just wants to see some stupid shit happening, and it's also for the person who kind of wants to just get that something deeper, and sort of maybe take something away that they can use for themselves, or they can see a situation and kind of relate to it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a cool show.
It's definitely really cool. I think what you said is dead on, and a lot of cartoons are actually coming out that are kind of that, where it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
Where there's the entertainment, silliness, and then sometimes it's a deeper level to it, where it's it's made for adults. There's a few dick jokes here and there.
Yeah.
And you're kind of just is this a kid's joke? Or it's I'm going to eat your flesh. And you're what? They put this in there?
No, I agree 100%. And I think part of that is just the medium is changing, and how entertainment reaches us. I'm not that old. I'm 21. I'm turning 22 in like 2 weeks. But like,
yeah, buddy.
yeah, happy birthday to me. But anyways, you know, because when I watch cartoons, it's all TV. Like, you know, you get a 20-minute segment or half hour or whatever, and if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. And whoever is making that content has to capture your attention within that time span, and they need to unfold a whole story within like 30 minutes. But nowadays, like with Adventure Time, people like binge that shit.
Yeah, I think it's also just with like Netflix, you know, like seasons come out at a time. It's easier, and it almost like that availability of like the way that technology has went kind of changed it so that TV shows have more depth than movies now, right?
Yeah,
like Game of Thrones is you could draw a really intricate story with like complex characters and interactions that you wouldn't necessarily be able to capture in like an hour and 45 minutes.
Like I think it's definitely the more powerful medium in a lot of ways. Like even with Adventure Time, what's interesting that you pointed out to me is like the first 2 seasons sort of follow that like episodic narrative where everything needs to happen within the span of one episode, and then you know, after season 2 you got entire arcs, and like whole plots that span, you know, maybe a season or like several episodes. So I mean, I haven't seen the whole show.
Yeah. You've only seen bits and pieces.
Yeah. So
but like,
so you've been describing it to me, and but yeah, it changed, right? It evolved, and I think like I'm guessing they were kind of like right on the turning point of that medium, like when Netflix and shit was like taking off. Like, do you know what year like Adventure?
I don't know. It was definitely like a while ago. If they're on like season 9 right now.
Yeah, but you know, so a lot younger than SpongeBob, but like you know, definitely not last week. Like, so I feel like they kind of like were right on that line, and it's cool how like the show sort of evolved and like adapted to that, and then it just got better because of it. Like you can see like, all right, here's what Adventure Time would be in the old medium, and then here it is like in this new medium, and you know, it's the same show, same people, but you can see how like with this new medium they're just able to like go a level deeper. That's freaking sweet.
I know.
That's
it's
awesome.
good because you get to hit more, I guess, like more archetypes in a story arc, right? Like if you were to express a story over like an 8-part episode, that's like, and even if they are 11 minutes, that's still 80 minutes for you to like share a story compared to like what you would normally be constricted to like 20 minutes. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. You'll be able to like explore different kinds of themes and motifs, and I really recommend that you watch this show. I think you'll love it, dude. You'll binge watch the whole thing.
I've like, I'm invested already. Like, I was laughing my ass off like every single episode.
Yeah, just get some poop brain.
Oh, dude, poop brain, so funny. in the same freaking episode as the fart joke. So like,
yeah, it's great.
Damn, that's some good shit. But yeah, like, what were you saying about the archetypes and, you know, the literary elements? I'm definitely in the school of thought that shit's like really complicated to tell like the story properly. You need to be smart in like some respect. Like it's not just something that you can just do arbitrarily. Like not every story is like a good story.
Okay, are you looking at this from like a Jungian dream analysis, like archetypes perspective?
Yeah, so I think I think part of it is to we can get more into like Jung later, but like
I planned to, I do want to talk about, because I just started the insert like, is it Modern Man in Search of a Soul?
Yeah,
I'm only like 40 pages in, but like even reading those 40 pages is just like whoa, like mind-blowing stuff.
It's nuts. And it's just so almost clashing with, you know, your typical way of just acting in the world and just how you view things on one hand, and on the other hand it's sort of reinforcing that and like bringing it like forward, so you're thinking like, oh my god, like finally everything just makes sense, like, it's just a different way of looking at things that you wouldn't necessarily have looked at if you didn't read that book, which is like awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool to just sort of like play with your axioms like that and just change your perspective and just see things differently. And like I read that book a year ago.
Oh, really? Like I thought it was like recent.
Yeah, well, actually, maybe not quite a year ago. Like, I think I read it at the beginning of like summer 2017. So maybe
Okay.
like 10 months ago.
Did you read that book? Like, because you were also telling me about the like the cracking the head and the shell.
Yeah,
What book is that? Do you know?
It's called Breaking Open the Head.
Do you know the author?
I think it was David Pinchbeck.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just this dude who lives in New York who likes to write and take like God only knows how many drugs. He's done a lot of drugs and he's written about them.
But I was because I haven't read that book, but like you recommended Jung to me, so I didn't know if you had a recommendation in the order. Because I know we had discussed that I'm sorry, we're throwing a lot of books at people right now, but they're great books.
Well, hopefully we can like, talk about them and like unpack them a little bit,
But like I know that you recommended that I would definitely read Modern Man in Search of a Soul before reading Erich Neumann's. Is it Eric? Erich.
I don't know.
I think he has an
I think
H.
it's Eric.
Are you sure?
Eric. I don't fucking. I read the name. I never like.
I'm fairly confident it's ERICHNEUMANN.
Yeah.
And it's, the title of the book would be The Origins of Consciousness.
Origins and History of Consciousness.
The Origins and History of Consciousness. Yeah. Which you recommended I read after Jung.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because Neumann is a student of Jung and he further develops Jung's ideas from Modern Man in Search of a Soul.
Yeah.
And like you told me his forward effect, like what did he say?
So the forward was written by Jung, and like he made the analogy where he was sort of like the pioneer of this whole field of psychology, and Neumann kind of had the advantage of the ground has already been plowed. We already like built a house, and he could kind of expand on it from there. So Jung said like Neumann really pushed the horizons in a way that he just couldn't have done because he was like 80.
Yeah, he was
and
old.
He did it his whole life, but Neumann took it one step further.
Yeah.
So
But that sounds amazing. I'm so excited.
It's such a sick book.
And then no, you were even telling me how like after you would read Neumann's, I mean, you also kill like 100 pages like before you go to bed.
Yeah, not really.
No?
But I don't know.
Because you ended up having dreams about the things that you were.
There was one night where like I had a dream that was like eerily similar, or themes of it were like eerily similar to like what I had read the day before, and that was just weird.
Yeah, I think you're probably just processing it.
Yeah, it was definitely some like processing and shit, but like I just remember waking up and like looking at my ceiling and being like, what the fuck? What happened? Yeah.
Not a fun dream?
No, I mean it was great. It was a blast. But like I don't know, I didn't sleep well after that. I can tell you, like I'm just like, damn, like there's some crazy shit going on in my head right now, and I don't know if I want to like go back there right now. I don't know if I can handle that shit. So I mean, like I'm glad I had the dream. Like it was freaking great. But like, damn, that was weird.
As long as it's not like a recurring, like that's what I thought was super interesting about what Jung was. I mean, again, I haven't read the chapter on like Archaic Man or like the later stuff, but like based on the 40 pages that I had read, I thought it was like super interesting how he really emphasized that you need to take into account what's going on in the conscious.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, dreams, black cloak represents death, Yeah. And then, like the one I don't know, because I'm like pinpointing like a single paragraph, but I don't like it's such a dense book. I don't know if you remember.
I think I remember what you're talking about.
He had mentioned how like death doesn't necessarily represent death. Like you can dream a lot about death,
right?
But it doesn't necessarily translate to death. It might be something else.
Yeah, it's really complicated. Like the brain is the single most complicated single object that we're aware of in existence. So So like, you know, the shit that's going on in there, like, it's gonna be hard to interpret. But yeah, like there's I think sort of a set number of symbols, but like the way those all relate and like the depth of meaning in each of them is pretty intense. So it's definitely hard to, you know, you can interpret it, but it's hard to say if you've just scratched the surface or if you've really like understood something to do with this sort of symbolism in depth. It's definitely hard. We should probably like talk a little about Jung and, you know, his like theories and everything.
Yeah, I mean, go for it if you.
Yeah,
I don't know as much as you do.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get more.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's hard because I don't know. Jung was just such a nuanced thinker, and a lot of his theories are really complex. But I think some of the major things you need to touch on to like understand his worldview and where he's coming from is definitely, you need to distinguish between like the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And that's pretty simple because the conscious mind is pretty much what you're aware of and what you understand. And it's almost sort of self-evident because, you know, your conscious mind is what you're conscious of.
Yeah.
It's what you're experiencing right now. And then the unconscious mind, like, you know, the definition is almost in the word. It's just everything that's going on in your head that you're not aware of. Like,
yeah. And like again, like one of the cool things is just like pinpointing a very specific paragraph. But I thought because I read it on my morning commute.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
It's awesome. I love it because like longer commutes are like, okay, it's just time to read. I'm gonna learn so much.
When you're like just flipping through pages
Yeah.
and like you see the dum-dum next to you like on his phone and you're like, peasant. I read literature. Meanwhile, like, I can barely tie my shoes.
But what I was saying is that like there was one specific passage. I feel like every paragraph, like after you read it, you reread it again, and you look up and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, fuck, man, that's deep.
Yeah, but the one thing that he was proposing was that you're actually like dreaming all the time, right? It's actually just your unconscious speaking all the time. But when we're conscious, our consciousness kind of subdues the unconscious, you know?
Yeah, like they work together.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was like a really interesting, like I'd have never heard of that theory that like your unconscious is actually working all the time.
Yeah, that's
right?
Crazy.
That's like the underlying, like the animalistic chaos side of you. Your reptilian brain is always on and working, whether or not
think about it. Like
that's like the behemoth and the leviathan. You know, it's like they're both cyclical, always working.
Yeah. There's because you know, the behemoth and leviathan is basically like, I mean, I'm no expert, but like as far as I understand it,
it's the representation of
like complete order, control versus like complete chaos, right?
And the behemoth would be the order, leviathan is the chaos.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because again, like we just started to play D&D and I think it's awesome, but like the Cthulhu is like the tentacle weird like deep sea thing, and that like is like almost synonymous with the Leviathan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, like that's the thing is like it's archetypal, right? Which basically means it's abstract and it appears everywhere, right? So if it's an archetype, you're gonna see elements of it like all over the place. Wherever there's humans, there's gonna be representations of those archetypes. Because basically they're part of us and they're just something, they're the medium in which we express what's going on, you know, behind the covers in the unconscious. So
and like how you associate certain things with certain like symbols, and you know what I mean. It's like like do you remember the one patient dream that Jung was mentioning about how he dreamt his father was like this reckless drunk driver? I do. It was like very early on in the book, so and I know you read it a while ago.
But that like
that one really stuck out to me.
Yeah, that stuck out
because it was essentially a story where he had a patient come in and he described this dream where like my father was just like this drunk driver and he was so reckless it doesn't even make any sense because he doesn't drink much. He's a very, orderly person. He always, like, even if he were to go to a bar and drive after, he'll be very careful, only one drink or something, And he wasn't like a chaotic guy, but in the dream, he was just like a wild man.
Yeah.
Right? And Jung eventually worked out that, after exploring through therapy for a while, I don't know if it was like 8 months or a year or whatever.
Yeah, forever long, yeah.
It came to light that this man was almost living under the thumb of his father in the sense that he was so dependent on his father, and his father was like still babying him, right?
And I think he idolized his father, so his father was like almost like a deity to him, and his father could do nothing wrong. So it was sorry to like interrupt you, but
no, it's
yeah, but it was like his unconscious mind sort of bringing a little chaos into that almost perfect image that was in his conscious mind of his father. So like with that, he got a more complete view of like a person. Yeah, I mean it's just a cool example of how your conscious and unconscious mind will work together to like help you have a healthy mode of being in the world that we're all living in. Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, obviously this is like fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
I read this like on my commute today.
Yeah, so.
But the point that like Jung was trying to hammer home was how your unconscious will always, it's kind of like yin yang, right? With like your consciousness and your unconsciousness. If you're not being conscious, your unconscious will pretty much like take up the challenge and like compensate for what your consciousness is lacking, which is like interesting because there's definitely been points in my life where like I've had recurring dreams, more accurately like recurring nightmares, right? And I feel like I was like, dude, this is crazy. I don't understand why I have like the same dreams over and over and over again. And then like, I took neuroscience in college, and like all my psych classes basically said dreams, that's just like nonsense in your brain.
Which is crazy, like
because
the thing is, to me, even if they don't mean anything, I'm gonna act like they do. Like
that's almost
if that's wrong, I don't want to be right. Like
I don't have that much of a bias towards it. But
maybe not that much.
But I think what you're like, I agree with you. Like I definitely learned like some like deep life lessons from interpreting dreams, and if that's nonsense, like well then fuck, I'm pulling like life lessons out of nonsense.
Yeah, the thing's like I'm getting life lessons, man. Like let me be. Like
like
they're good for me.
Maybe like fuck off a little bit.
yeah. Take your stupid science and shove it. No, don't do that. It's still science, kind of technically.
Yeah. I think but like that kind of approach is almost like synonymous with do you remember Eric? I'm gonna butcher his last name. Weinstein.
Yeah.
When he mentioned his the porcupine example, how it's like.
Can you go over that?
So like a porcupine can't shoot quills.
Yeah.
But if man is evolved to believe that they can, he will keep a safe distance and not get poisoned and die, or like not get affected by quills. So I mean, it's not like true, right? Because they can't, but it's at that point where it's like it's true enough that you survive.
Yeah, and the other thing is like nobody's denying that there's objective scientific truth.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily live in that reality, right? From like a technical definition, right? Because we're living in our own subjective reality, and you can't really do away with the subjective. It's almost like paradoxical if you do, right? Like if you try and just imagine like an objective reality without you in it, like how are you doing that? You're doing it with like your subjective experience. And dreams are like, it's all about your subjective experience, right? So it's almost more about the reality you live in than just like cold hard science, because you can't divorce yourself from the equation. Even if it's not like a scientific truth, it's a truth for you, and you're living as you. So the more you know about you, the better. So I think that makes it like really important, and that's like I'd say one of my biggest arguments for to somebody who would say dreams are meaningless is it's a subjective thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's meaningful to you, it's meaningful. and people are obviously, like, anecdotally, people are helped by dream interpretation. And, you know, even if it doesn't work 100% of the time, if it works 50% of the time, 60% of the time, even like 30% of the time.
Yeah, something is better than nothing.
It's better than zero.
Yeah.
So
I think, but like that's honestly like what, like that's one of the things that has been on my. I don't know about you. I'm weird, but like usually they'll be like we're both pretty weird.
We're pretty weird.
Usually, like different phases of my life, I characterize, or like different epochs of my life, I would characterize based on a specific problem that I'm trying to solve.
Right.
You know, like it might be like the problem of like nihilism. Like, what do I do in the face of nihilism and stuff like that? Or what do I do about like dishonesty? Or, you know what I mean? Like, there's different themes, and I kind of work it out. Or it's like some kind of tragic event happened in my life, and then, you know, I need time to digest. You know, I carry on with my life. I go to work. I do, you know, my homework, or I do my, like, job, or, you know, whatever point in my life I am at. But in the meantime, it's, you know, it's on my mind, and I'm, like, working through. I don't know, do you share this, or am I just weird?
You know, I it's funny. I have to think about it because I don't know. Like, would you say like the epochs in your life are sort of marked by like tragedies or?
For me,
yeah,
probably.
Okay,
probably. I'm no stranger to tragedy, dude.
You go straight into that.
I ride out those roads of chaos.
Yeah. So, kudos.
Yeah, it's not good though, because like sometimes I jump in the deep end, and
that's
it's not
true. So it's like a double-edged sword, dude. Like sometimes it's freaking sweet. Like you get that gold after the dragon and shit. Like that's fucking nice, dude. Like gold. Like who don't want a little gold?
Who wouldn't want gold?
It's good shit.
But like it's like there's different epochs in my life, and there were different phases, and I guess you could kind of categorize it like when you went to college.
Yeah.
Okay, this is gonna be like a hard rabbit hole, but
right, fine,
but we will tie it back together.
Yeah, we'll tie it all together like the beautiful bow.
People, bear with us. We have weird heads. But I like how you would feel about a year of high school.
Yeah.
Almost felt equivalent to a semester in college.
Interesting.
Did you feel that at all? I think it might have been because it's different classes, different people you're meeting, and then like when it's spring semester, it almost feels like, wow, renewal. You know, like new set of things, new classes, reset. My grades are set from last semester. You know what I mean? Versus like in high school, it was more like a yearly grade, or quarters maybe, but like it was the same classes for the whole year, same people. You know what I mean? You had the schedule locked down. That was just my high school. I don't know if yours was like that too.
It was a little different, but like there's definitely like a more distinct mark in epochs between semesters than there would be between like a year of high school, which is interesting. I don't know, like do you feel like a semester of college was almost like the same amount of time as a year of high school?
Yes, for me that's what
crazy.
It felt like.
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
Like college, like however much I grew in high school, which is a lot, but isn't much compared to now, right?
Yeah.
But like for the time being, like, you know, I'm a 14-year-old kid. What the fuck do I know?
Yeah.
But it you know, I was like 14 to 18, huge difference, right?
True.
But then like every semester of college, it felt like another year of growth.
Yeah.
Each semester felt like another year of growth, and then like if there happened to be like some kind of big tragedy that just came out of the blue, it'll take me like a solid like 6 months, maybe 2 years to work that out.
Yeah.
But like once it clicks, it's like, wow, I'm in like a way better headspace. Like I get this. Like this problem is, I understand it, you know? And it's not so much that like I know how to confront it. Like understanding a problem isn't the same as being able to solve it, but at the very least, like when it comes back again, you know, I kind of like when you're coding and there's like a bug, you don't really freak out. Like there's a moment like, oh shit, you freeze, you're like, fuck, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But then like afterwards you're like, okay, I've gone through this whole thing before, I can do it again. Like you kind of build your confidence with like facing that chaos.
Yeah, it's like you take a specific example of a problem and you can make it something abstract, because you know, in a way, like there's like certain sets of problems, right, and like certain categories that you can come across. It's like if you solve one problem in that set, you can apply it to the whole set. So you've expanded your whole like circle of knowledge.
Well, that's assuming that you come up with a solution.
If you come up with a solution
with like a good, again, this is like just like hierarchies and stuff that we were talking about. But it's like you found the like secret sauce, let's say, or like the perfect algorithm that solves the problem across a set of different problems.
Yeah, and every single one of those problems contains the secret sauce. And once you've solved one of them, you have the secret sauce for like that whole set of problems. Which is pretty crazy. It's crazy like how that's how it works. And I think it's also crazy that that's something that's like pretty unique to human beings. Just our ability to abstract concepts like that and then apply it to a whole set of things. Like you don't, bears behave the same way everywhere. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Like it's actually kind of weird to think about, but like, do you think a bear ever thinks like, damn, I've grown. Like I'm a way cooler bear now.
Do you know what bears do, dude?
What?
You know bears are cannibalistic, right?
Oh, see, they're not learning shit, man.
But here's the interesting thing is that like there's animals obviously have like a spectrum of I guess what you could call consciousness, right? But like what I've learned with bears, if you had like a mother bear who's like extremely protective of her cub, right? If the cub dies, and they've like documented this, the mother bear will look at the baby bear, have a moment of grief, and then eat it.
Dude, that's fucking brutal.
Yeah. But that's fucking nature, bro.
Yeah, dude, nature's like crazy.
Savage.
Yeah, holy shit.
Savage.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's weird because like there's that like 10 seconds of humility of like, I'm going to grieve my
that's weird.
But like, then this is nature, this is food now. Oh my God.
Dude, it's crazy because like, it's almost like they're coming up with like an optimal solution where it's like, all right, we'll just wrap this up. It's like a freaking like assembly line. Like your boss is yelling at you like, we need to increase productivity. Like, all right, grief, get the grief over with. All right, we're good on grief. Eat that shit.
Eat that shit.
Yeah, like that's nuts. And I mean, you can. It's so easy to explain that from like if you're just using strict logic. It's like, oh, it's food, it's energy. Like shit's tough out here. Like there won't be food later. I eat this. You know, it makes sense if you just use logic, but if you're using, like, you know,
So then, okay, do you think logic is obviously a very useful tool to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you code. Obviously, if, then, logic. This, that, P greater than Q, all that stuff, right? But, like, do you think that there's some kind of human element that is outside of that sphere? Like, we can't live, like, purely logical, right? We have to live almost like subjectively metaphysically.
Yeah. You know, this is so I took a drawing class last semester, and like I'm a fucking artist. Like I'm not that great.
You don't know that, bitch.
Dude, I spent 6 hours drawing like a paper bag.
This came out as zeros and ones. You just wrote binary.
Dude, can you imagine? I don't know what I do.
They'll just look at you
like some crazy art.
Yeah, they'll just be like, "This is a genius. What does this message say?" And then you're just literally saying like "poo brain, poo brain, poo brain,"
poo brain over and over again, like literally writing it ones and zeros. Like you people all have poo brain. That'd be pretty smart of me.
Contemporary as fuck.
Yeah, it'd be so contemporary, dude. But I spent 6 hours drawing a paper bag, and I got B+ on the paper bag.
Oh,
and I was like, "What the fuck."
But it was like hyper realistic with like I'm guessing it's like pencil shading.
Hyper realistic by like my standards, which like isn't.
Oh God! I mean, as long as it doesn't look like.
Yeah, no, I mean like it was a good paper bag, man. Yeah. Like I was proud of it. Like I thought it was pretty sick, but like it just wasn't up to like fine art standards. You know? It exceeded all my expectations. So, like that was.
Well, that's good, man.
Yeah, no, I was just competing with myself, and I won. So, screw you, my art teacher. Like, you don't know shit. My paper bag was so fucking good.
Wait, so why was it? Was it just?
Oh, like... yeah, no, that. Sorry, I was gonna like segue into something else, but so they made us go to this talk by this like sculptor guy, super famous, all that shit. And one thing I noticed about his art was that it was like kind of messy. Like he had a lot of sculptures, but they were really like rough around the edges, and you could see a lot of kind of human elements of it and things that didn't quite fit and stuff like that. And they opened up for questions at the end. Of course, I didn't have a fucking question because I didn't know shit about art. But somebody asked, why are like you leaving so many rough edges and like things sort of left, not as well like polished as they could be. And he said like the one thing that computers will never be able to do is do something as shitty as you. And
wow.
like I was like, that's hysterical, but like, dude, that's deep, man. Like you touched on something there. So and like before that, because I'm computer science major, and like I'm hoping to be a software developer and all that, but I really made a point of touching up my code as much as I can, making it human readable, making it look professional, make it look as much to like as close to that arbitrary, or not completely arbitrary, but that ideal code block or script as I could possibly make it.
Yeah,
right?
You're making it as efficient as you can, yeah.
But like in a way, you're kind of removing that personal element, right? Like the shittiness in that code, and I'm definitely like, I'm not taking this too seriously. Like I don't want my code to run 10 times slower than it could be. And I'm also referring more to like the syntax, right? Like how I set up the comments, what I name the variables and all that sort of stuff. I'm kind of okay now with like leaving that like a little shitty, because it's like it's my own signature, right? Like somebody might like.
I don't know if people like that, dude.
Well, I mean, it's like screw you, like, like hopefully somebody can see my like little marks of shittiness and be like, hey, I recognize that shittiness. It's Ben.
They're gonna see that shittiness and be like, this dumb asshole didn't fucking code right.
You know what, dude? Nobody could make that distinct stupid that I could. So.
I love it.
I don't know, dude. I kind of like it, but like I thought that was pretty deep. So
no, without a doubt, that quote is like staggeringly deep. Because like, because that's what I was basically asking. Like that's the crux of my question, was that like a machine can only be programmed to be logical, right?
Yeah.
If this, then that. Like that's at the very core of its coding. So like, what does that mean for like artificial intelligence? What does that mean for? Like, will it ever make will it be human? Like, is to be human to err? Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a tough question, man, because you can say the same thing about us in a way, right? Like, what are we like? We're a bunch of like impulses and synapses and just electricity firing off, right? But you can build that up, right, into more complex systems.
But
and
even with neuroscience though, like we don't know. Like, we can understand cells. We can understand the biology behind cells. We can understand, like, this protein connects with that protein, it interacts in this way, and that's what causes this. We understand, like, like, beta plaques or you know what I mean? Like, we understand a myriad of things, but we still don't have that, like, that missing link.
Right.
Between the biological, electrical, molecular thing and consciousness. We don't know. Like there's no explanation for consciousness, and like a part of me almost wants us to not know.
Oh, dude, totally. Like I don't want to be
reduced.
Yeah,
Jesus.
reduced, and that sucks. But the thing is, like, obviously I'm no expert, but I imagine if you found that thing that sort of connected the two, it would be like, all right, what's the next thing that connects the two, right? Like you can always stack higher and higher and higher, right? Like, and get closer and closer and closer. But who knows if you'll ever actually like get there where like you can explain everything from the ones and zeros and or the synapses to a full-fledged like Stefan or Ben.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, but it's also just like the fact that like we're both nature and nurture, So there's like a complexity.
Yeah.
Like even if you were to find like the biological code for Stefan, for Ben, you wouldn't necessarily get Stefan or Ben because like to replicate our exact experiences is impossible.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And like this is sort of one of the things that I liked about Jung was so much of his work, what I've read, kind of has to do with like abstractions. So you understand, your dream based on like the set of everybody else's dreams, right? Because there's similar elements in all of them.
Okay, that is like really, because that just means that you can't live alone. You know what I mean? Like if you are alone, you have no context.
True. Yeah,
right?
It's like, we need each other in a way.
I need your dreams, Ben.
Yeah, dude, totally. Take them, man.
Take them. I don't want them anymore.
They're kind of weird sometimes, and like other times they're not. I don't want your dreams.
You don't want my dreams.
Yeah.
I haven't had any of like those kinds of dreams.
I want zero though. Thank you very much.
I we went down a hard rabbit hole, and I do want you to finish your thought. But just super quick, what I was trying to make a point of with like the different epochs of my life is that different epochs had different recurring of dreams. So that makes me believe that once I solved a certain problem, like that 3-month, 8-month, 2-year problem that I had been encountering,
right?
Those dreams just disappear. I don't have those dreams anymore.
Yeah, and that's a big testament, right?
I mean, it's just me as an individual. It's useful for me.
Certainly,
it's useful for me.
It's definitely like anecdotal, but it's.
But I think it could help a lot of people.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Really, what's the harm? Well, okay, maybe. Never mind.
The harm?
Maybe there's harm.
The harm? I mean, like, have you heard about that guy that like went on like a killing rampage because of like he read the Catcher in the Rye?
Okay, you know what?
But also, have you read that book? Because fuck that guy. There's nothing triggering about that book. Like,
I don't know.
It was just like some sad, pathetic kid who was just like bitching and moaning about
John Lennon, right?
I don't know. Was it?
Yeah, it was. I remember that. Because my mom was like, she's obsessed with the Beatles.
Watches were 100% wrong.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I'm probably wrong about everything. Who cares? I don't know what I know.
I'm sorry, I detracted.
Oh, yeah, fuck. You got me on a...
Do you remember what you were...
Oh, yeah. So I was going to say, like, I was talking about abstractions, right?
Right. And I love abstractions.
Abstractions are the best, man.
We just have the weird brains for it, dude.
Yeah.
We have the same mind wave, and that makes me so happy.
Well, part of it, too, is, like, so much of computer science has to do with abstractions, right? Like, because, your first CS class, you're not going to talk about things. Like, you're not going to say, all right, these ones and zeros, do some shit with these ones and zeros, and then, like, those make some more ones and zeros, right? You're thinking about things really abstractly, right? Like, you're thinking about how one entire computer interacts with another, or one application interacts with another, and, as you go, you can kind of peel those layers apart, and then eventually you can get all the way down to the bottom. And a lot of people never do, and that's part of the beauty of like computer science, is just how well things can build on each other, because you can say, all right, I put this input into this sort of black box, and then I know I'm going to get this output, and what happens in that box isn't necessarily important, right? It's just input output. And one of my professors actually said the one thing that computer scientists do better than anybody else is abstraction. So it's definitely, that guy was just like, he's a well-respected professor. Definitely we're pretty good at abstraction.
Yeah. That's so interesting though, because like abstraction is almost something that's like you know what I mean? It's like chaos almost. It's the intangible.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's order until something goes wrong.
I think it's past order, dude. Like, I feel like the abstraction is kind of like that underlying plane that we draw words of like words don't do it justice. Like, there's a kind of abstract, like it's almost like a mood, like an atmosphere, something that you feel that you associate with words. But sometimes words don't really do it justice, and it's like it's interesting that you're in touch with that for doing something. And coding could be seen as predominantly like cold cut, like machine like logic.
Yeah,
right?
No, but
it's you definitely have to have like creativity to be able to code things.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
In a way that's like efficient, saves time, and is like.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, it's not as cut and dry as
people make it out to be.
There's definitely times where it's like, fuck. But I mean, it's cool because everything just sort of like fits together and works, and then I had this sort of very abstract view of like this one thing, and it was like a box, and then I sort of took that, and then I was able to look a level deeper, and I'm like, and you get that big reveal, like, holy shit, like, I understand this box one level down, and you're like, I never would have thought that was the case, and that's really cool. But, like, to what I was saying about Jung is, he said there's this level of abstraction on people, right? So you can almost, like, abstract people.
Yeah. Right.
And that was the collective unconscious, right?
But like by this, do you mean like, oh, what you believe Stefan to be, or what I believe Ben to be?
Well, it's like, this is my understanding is, say you take, I think you can use this, but like the personality of 10 people, and then you take what's common across those, and you make that like one person or like one object, right? And then say you do that same process like 10 times on 10 different people, and then you combine those all into one object, right?
So it's like an amalgamation of a set of people.
Yeah, so the more you do that, right, the more you're approaching like
An
the
average.
commonalities across the set of all people, right? And that's useful to know, right? Because that's something, this is the collective unconscious. It's something that has to do with you, and it has to do with everybody else.